ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. I'm Rita Cosby. Well, it's only been a little more than 100 days since President Trump started his second term in office. And already he has secured the border 99%. Wow. Now, in addition to the tough job of tracking down illegal criminal migrants in our country, the Trump administration is also battling rogue judges, making their task even more complicated and even more dangerous. And joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Artdell Cueto. He is the vice president and also spokesperson of the National Border Patrol Council. He has also spent more than 2 decades at the Border Patrol on the front lines of our national security fight. Art, it's so great to have you here.
It's fantastic to be on here.
How would you grade President Trump on the border and also deportation so far?
So an A+. But I'll tell you, he has been fantastic. However, it isn't that hard to be fantastic considering the debacle we had from the last administration.
You know, that's a great point, because what he encountered, what he was left with, was a mess. It's astounding. And it also goes to show, Art, that if you have a president with a will, that's really all it took, because we used to hear from President Biden, oh, no, Congress has to act. We all knew that wasn't true.
No, absolutely. And we knew that because so I remember the first time he won, right, in 2016, his rhetoric alone dropped the numbers. That was a big plus. And now, once again, we're going through the same, synopsis where his rhetoric dropped the numbers. But I think what makes it different now is he dropped the numbers, but he's doing everything to move forward to make sure that our nation is going to remain secure. And he's doing all the right steps moving forward, putting all the right people in place. Making sure that we were able to figure out some laws that'll fix this mess, and I think we're headed in the right direction. But obviously, right now is not the time to slow down.
You know, you talked about laws. How much more does Congress need to do?
Well, I mean, obviously, we need to have the right change in immigration laws, where a lot of these individuals that are coming across within that ask for asylum, we're not against immigration. We're against illegal immigration. So you have to have real sanctions that say, hey, if you come across illegally in between the ports, you can't ask for asylum. You have to do it legally at the ports of entries. So hopefully we can get some laws in place that, stop that illegality from happening, because right now they can still enter illegally and ask for asylum. And obviously they get charged for the illegal entry, but they're still able to claim asylum. At the same time, we need to be able to go after some of these individuals for the smuggling, when individuals are driving vehicles down, even if it's just scouts. We know when they're scouting. If you can figure out that they're down there scouting, trying to see the area of where they can transport more illegals, those individuals need to be prosecuted, as well as southbound. I think operation-wise, that falls on U.S. Customs. They need to start doing the right southbound operations, because if illegals are coming north, if drugs are coming north, money's going south, and they need to start concentrating on some southbound operations to try to figure out, how this money is leaving the United States. You got to hit them in their pocketbook.
And not to get too into the weeds, but it's so important, and I know you understand this, Art, is that if Congress doesn't start doing some laws or some things to back it, then say the next president is like Biden. He'll just at the stroke of a pen on day one change X, X, and X, and then we're back at square one again.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. That's why we need to figure out what laws we can change to make sure that our future is secure. I mean, immigration laws haven't been changed for quite some time. And we all know, depending on who's in charge, certain individuals are going to take advantage of it. Unfortunately, the last 4 years, the only ones that have taken advantage of our immigration laws are the criminals and the criminal element. Thankfully, right now, we have a president with the political will and, wanting to make sure that our nation's borders are secure. But you hit the nail on the head. Moving forward, we need to make sure we have the right laws in place.
How many do you believe entered? I mean, do we have really a count? Does anybody really even know? I mean, between those who cross the border, also the, quote, gotaways that we just have no idea about. And we've heard numbers, I'm sure you've heard even much more detailed numbers, anywhere from 10 to 20 million. And also, how many of them are criminals? Criminal migrants. I'm talking about violent criminal migrants.
I really don't think they have a number. I remember back, and I'm going far back on this one. I'm going to go back as far as the George Bush administration, right? Where, I was already working for the Border Patrol then, and they would say that we were 40% effective. I remember that number clearly. They said we're 40% effective. That's when we had agents and people on the line. So if we've had, whatever millions they claim came into the United States during the Biden administration, those millions that they claim are the ones that actually were apprehended that they know about. Okay? Well, I mean, if we were 40% before with actual agents on the line, you tell me what percentage we would have been with no agents on the line. So I think the number of gotaways is way bigger than what anyone says. And they said, it was well over 1 million gotaways. I would say it's well over 3 million gotaways, unfortunately. It's just one of those things that we'll never, ever know. Remember the old commercial of how many, the owl licking the lollipop to get to the center?
Right.
I think that's how we would pretty much guess the gotaways. We don't know how many individuals entered illegally because, again, there was nobody there to count them at that point.
Wow, that's a very powerful analogy. You talked about your time there under George W. Bush. How different is it under this presidency, sort of seeing Republicans and Democratic? Obviously, nobody, I don't think, was as bad as Joe Biden has been with the border with Alejandro Mayorkas. But how have you seen it evolve over the years?
So I was born, raised, grew up on the border. 22 years U.S. Border Patrol. Prior to that, I did 5.5 years with the state prison in the state of Arizona, and I did other work in the state. I've been here my entire life. I've seen it, and I've worked in law enforcement under several different administrations. I have never seen it as bad as we saw it under Biden, and I've never seen it as good as we've seen it under President Trump. But again, we need to continue moving forward. Right now is not the time to, slow down. There needs to be, continued, push from law enforcement, from Congress, from the Senate to make sure we get the right laws in place. And we need to prosecute. We've been seeing, people that are in leadership positions, not just politicians, but judges that took an oath to defend, this country, that they're going against their oath. Not just going against their oath, and let's just say they're not turning a blind eye. They're being active in assisting criminals get away with more crime in this country.
Your gut affects everything, even your mood. So Ollie created 2 brand new products to take care of your insides. Ollie Big 10 Probiotic has 10 strains of probiotics, their most ever, to support a healthy gut microbiome, immune system, and stress response. And Ollie Super Good Superfoods delivers 15 superfoods in tasty gummy form. Find them at ollie.com and exclusively at Walmart.
Ollie!
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-844-4-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
You know, speaking of that, that judge in Milwaukee County in Wisconsin, that's an incredible, incredible story that has just broken in the last few days. This judge, Judge Dugan, and the allegation, as you know, is that she snuck out the guy who's accused. He's an illegal migrant, and he was there for a domestic violence case where he apparently beat 2 people really badly. And then the Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan, is accused of escorting him out a private door jury room. Does that amaze you that somebody whose job is to uphold the laws, to enforce the laws, is doing this sort of side operation? It makes you wonder, what else has she been doing and how many other judges are like her?
It is shocking to see that. I mean, corruption it goes far. And I think when you see something like that, I think what needs to be done is not only should she get prosecuted, but there's going to have to be an extensive look at all the cases that she was a part of and see what other things she allowed to happen. That's what's unfortunate, is that it opens up the book to each and everything that individual has done. It leaves a tremendously black eye in law enforcement and in the judges as well. I mean, you're going to have your bad apples, right? But I've seen this all too many times. They concentrate on the bad apples more than on the good ones. But obviously, when you do have these bad apples, you need to go after them with every single ounce of the law to make sure that they face strict consequences for their actions.
But, you know, it's interesting, and you know this all too well, Art. There's a lot of people out there protesting for this judge. I mean, there were protests in support of her and saying, oh, this is terrible. This is a violation of the Constitution. Well, I would think not upholding the laws of this country is a violation. And yet they're taking the other side, saying, you know, that she's almost a martyr, that she's a hero. What do you think when you see that? You go through all the work, you track down these people, you finally get them. And then here ICE is about to bust this person and deport this person who anybody with their right, mind wouldn't want in this country. And then you have a judge who's trying to thwart it, and you've got a whole bunch of people out there protesting, supporting the judge.
I think the radical left has gotten to that point now where they just don't care enough about law and order. They don't care about this country. It's like you said, they're searching for martyrs. They can't find enough. So, they're searching for these criminal martyrs. We've seen it before. They cling to that criminal element and they try to say, hey, these are good guys. We saw it with individuals that have been deported. We were talking, you and I were talking in earlier, and I was making the comment during the Obama years and during the Biden years, they were so concentrated on not allowing criminals to get deported. Now criminals are getting deported, and we have this radical left concentrating on importing the criminals that are being deported back into the country. And obviously now they're assisting individuals from being allowed to get deported. It's shocking, but it just goes to prove that their moral compass is non-existent, because I've seen them go down to other countries to see other individuals that have been deported. But where was that, concern with angel families? Where was that concern when these individuals were committing crimes and murdering American citizens? They try to cling on to the wrong martyrs, and that's where the problem is. They don't have a moral compass.
You talked about the angel moms. Talk about how tough that is when you've had those conversations with them, Art, and just how torn apart they are, and also how unfair, just like you said, that they're not getting all the attention from many in the mainstream media.
No, I mean, that's horrific. We see it, so often. Fortunately, there's individuals like yourself, and there's other good individuals out there that do great reporting, and they keep the facts straight, because that's what it's about. I speak to people all the time, and I speak in different events throughout the country. And Rita, I always ask this, and I speak not just to people on the right, I speak to people on the left. And I tell them, and I say, look, this is what is happening in our communities. The drug smugglers, they don't care if you voted, on the right or on the left. They want to make money at the expense of killing American lives. That's what it comes down to. And the smugglers, the same thing. They want to make money at the expense of anyone. And if you ask either the right or the left, if they lock their doors at night, you're going to get the same answer. They all lock their doors at night. And they don't do it because they hate their neighbor. They do it because they love those inside that home. Our nation's borders should not be any different.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. How has it helped also with the classification from President Trump to designate especially these gangs like Tren de Aragua and also MS-13 as foreign terrorist organizations? How has that enabled the fight?
Well, I think now you're seeing more assistance from other countries as well. With that designation, you've seen, Mexico step up and try to assist more. We saw the president of El Salvador when he was asked, hey, would you consider sending, an individual that was deported back to the United States? And he said, I don't feel comfortable releasing a terrorist back outside of into any country. And so I think that designation, it actually shows the criminals that we're serious about our nation's borders and we're serious about protecting American lives.
How bad is the fentanyl flow still continuing? Because that's still a big issue. Obviously, the border is so much more secure, but how are they getting around it? How are the cartels, who certainly don't want to lose billions upon billions of dollars, and they were making that much under Joe Biden?
Well, what they're doing is they're continuing to get creative, right? They've always been creative. They've always had that. You mentioned, I was a Border Patrol agent for 22 years. However, you got to remember, these individuals that are out here smuggling and the cartels, their parents were smugglers. Their grandparents were smugglers. Their great-grandparents were smuggling. Their uncles, it's a whole family, and they've got a lot of experience, and they've been very creative. They continue to get creative on bringing drugs into the United States. That's something that they're going to continue to do. But I think, we're seeing more seizures, more individuals that are being, arrested for smuggling into the United States. But that brings up a scary point. If you're seeing all these seizures of drugs coming into the country now, can you imagine how much fentanyl, how much heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamines got into the United States while we had the majority of our agents stuck in processing centers?
Yeah, it's shocking. It must have just been a voluminous, and you're right, scattered across this country. And the fact, we've had people on my shows where they talk about the whole processing labs that are taking place with, pharmacists essentially from China and working there in Mexico. And it's like a whole huge operation, and that's still working. So, it's coming through.
It's still coming through, but you got to remember, there's so much of it already in here, and it is because the last administration turned a completely blind eye. Rita, it was so bad. During the last time that President Trump was in office, right, not counting right now, but the first time he was in office, we had the street value of fentanyl was right around $1.50 per pill.
Wow.
During the Biden administration, it went down to 25 cents a pill.
Wow. Because it was so voluminous.
There was so much of it in the country.
Wow. One of the things that just came out recently, Artel Cueto, was at a club in Colorado. You probably heard this. There was a big bust in the last few days, and they got about 100 illegal migrants. They said it was being run by criminal gangs like Tren de Aragua. And also that apparently about 170 calls, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, was saying had come in about this club and nothing happened. In other words, under Joe Biden. So in other words, they were aware that this club was like a fully functioning club run by gangs in the United States. And they didn't even bother to show up and do a single bust. at that club. I mean, boy, if that doesn't speak volumes.
Right. They didn't care. But is that surprising? We saw the pictures and the video of the apartment complex in Colorado that was sequestered and run by Tren de Aragua, and the video was out there, and, the radical left ignored it, denied it, and said it wasn't true.
Wow.
Why should this surprise us?
Right. Wow.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
What I think has been so powerful in the last few days, the White House put out sort of in sync with the 100-day mark, and also just to show how many people they've rounded up, all these pictures that are lining the driveway there at the White House with faces of people, of criminal migrants that they've arrested and the crimes. How important is that? And I thought that was a brilliant idea because, first of all, it's right in the place where all the reporters do their live shots, so it's got to be in the background. And second of all, just to put a face and a name and a crime, I thought it was a very powerful way to say, here's what we've done and here's who these people are that are in our country that we got out.
I think it's powerful because it sends the message to the American public. But again, the unfortunate part of that is you're still going to have those on the left that are going to deny it. But if you're seeing that many criminals, that's probably a lot of trips that they're going to have to make to El Salvador just to make sure that those guys are real criminals, unfortunately. And I'll tell you where it's shocking and upsetting to me. We have a Congress lady here in Arizona that has said that she would go down to El Salvador to make sure that some of these individuals that were deported are actually criminals. However, where was she the last 4 years of the Biden administration when Arizona ranked number one in the country when it came to arrests, gotaways, and seizures of dangerous drugs? Yeah,
these people were silent. They were absolutely silent, and yet they seem to be energized at the thought of like the case of the Obrego Garcia in El Salvador. Even after all the information came out that he was in the car with the guy busted for human smuggling, the accusations of beating his wife, all of these things, and the Tren de Aragua, connection, or I should say MS-13 connection coming from at least two of those immigration judges, they still were backing him more passionately than I've heard about them ever talk about sealing the border, Art. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's shocking.
It is shocking, but again, it shows against their derangement and their hatred towards President Trump truly is bigger than their love for this country or their love for American lives.
Well, that is a sad testament, and I agree in many ways. It seems like everything is anti-Trump, anti-Republican, as opposed to what's best for this country, no matter what side of the political aisle you're on. And that is a really sad testament that some people are fired up on that issue, and yet seem to be silent about having those people in their community. It's astounding. I feel like we're almost living in an alternate universe sometimes. I'm sure you do, Art.
Well, we're out here in Arizona, and they just passed the law. It went through all the right procedures about not forcing, which is crazy that you have to come up with a law to force them, right? But it would force law enforcement in the state of Arizona, because there's still some rogue sheriffs out there that are not willing to help, right? This law would force them that if they arrested an individual in the country that's illegally and commits a crime, Rita, okay, commits a crime and you have him in your custody, it would force them to call immigration. Our governor in Arizona vetoed that bill. Vetoed it. So, and I'm sure she's doing it to say, oh, look, I'm thumbing my nose at the administration. But what she's actually creating is a dangerous environment in Arizona, because now federal law enforcement officers are going to have to go into communities to find these individuals that were released, put the community at risk, put the individual that they're trying to arrest at risk, putting law enforcement at risk because they're involved in these, targeted enforcements, when it all could have been avoided by saying once they're in custody, you just get immigration to go over there and, take custody from this individual in the prison that he's already detained in a controlled environment. They chose not to do that. Governor Hobbs is a disgrace to the state of Arizona.
That's amazing, Art, when you just talked about all the sequence of events and how does any of what the governor's actions, as you described it there, keep communities safe. It's in contradiction to protecting the communities, and you know that is first and foremost. Wow, wow, wow. Well, everybody, be sure to subscribe and share to this really powerful podcast. Art Del Cueto, thank you for all you do, and everybody there at the National Border Patrol Council. I know you guys represent about 16,000 great men and women that are there on the front lines, including you for many decades now.
Thank you, Rita. I appreciate it, and I encourage your listeners also to follow my pages. I'm on X, and I'm obviously on Instagram. I do most of my work on Instagram. I'm out there, unapologetic, putting out the stories and telling you the truth of what's happening in the border, regardless of what administration is in charge.
Well, that's why we love you, because your priority is protecting this country and protecting our citizens. Art, thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do. You don't get thanked enough. And I want to thank you on behalf of all those agents that I do represent for always putting the right stories out there and making sure that the voices of the agents are heard.
Well, I love and appreciate them all. And I so appreciate your great service, Art. Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.